The following people were sentenced to death in 2023. January: James Edward McCamey, North Carolina. McCamey received the death sentence for killing Carol Smith Greer on August 29, 2016. Greer, 65 years old, a well-known retired school teacher, was fatally stabbed shortly after her neighbor was stabbed as well, but the neighbor was able to get away and take a car to the hospital. Then 51-year-old McCamey was charged by a grand jury with murder and armed robbery in connection with Greer's death and the theft of her 2012 Subaru Outback. He was also charged with attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon with the intent to kill and serious injury, and armed robbery in connection with the attack on Rashonta Nicole Love, who almost died. A day later, Greer's body was found by another neighbor at the rear of her Smyrna Drive home, in the area just behind a storage shed. Less than 100 feet from the Greer property, Love was attacked outside her house on West Nance Street. Driving Greer's Subaru, McCamey was found 3 days after the attacks in Brunswick County. Rocky McCamey, McCamey's wife, was also in the vehicle but was not prosecuted. Mark Wilson Jr., Florida. Wilson was convicted of first-degree murder for the deaths of Robert Baker, 12 years old, and Tatum, 14 years old, who were both killed in August 2020. The boys were beaten with a hammer before having their throats slashed by Wilson, who at the time was living with his wife, the boy's aunt, in a shed on the family's Melrose property. During the killings, their mother, Sarah Baker, was sound asleep inside the residence. Wilson appears to have either repeatedly attempted to slit older brother Tatum's throat or had seen through his neck. According to reports, Robert, the younger brother, had his throat cut end to end, almost causing him to lose his head. During the trial, Baker testified that she had observed Wilson outside before the killings, honing a knife that would subsequently be identified as the murder weapon. An 18-foot blood trail led her to her oldest son's body, which she discovered. The extent of the boys' injuries were initially concealed by the blankets that both boys were wearing. February: Robert Allen Saterfield, Texas. Robert Allen Saterfield, 39 years old, is one well-known case that has garnered national attention. Regarding the summer 2018 killing of an Angleton family, Ray Sean Hudson Sr., 28 years old, Maya Victoria Rivera, 24 years old, and their 5-year-old son, Ray Sean Hudson Jr., Saterfield was charged with capital murder. Their burnt remains were discovered close to Burr. In 2019, Saterfield and his legal representatives turned down a life sentence plea deal. On June 18, 2018, in an interview conducted in a jailhouse, he declared his innocence. Saterfield added that he knew the eldest Hudson, his fiancée, and their son, and that they had been friends since 2010. While operating Rivera's vehicle, Saterfield was taken into custody. He claimed to have had the family's permission to use it. Kyle Jokel, Louisiana. In 2020, the jury found Jokel guilty of 2 charges of first-degree murder related to the shooting murders of 2 deputies from the St. John the Baptist Parish Sheriff's Office in 2012. He was officially placed on death row in 2023. Due to lengthy trial motion delays and pandemic-related delays, Jokel's conviction and sentencing were postponed by 3 years. Jokel was a willing participant in an anti-government gang based on the Laplace trailer park called Scenic Riverview. Throughout a significant portion of the trial, the prosecution primarily used witness testimony stating that Jokel shot Nielsen, who was hurt in an earlier round of gunfire, at point-blank range with an AK-47. On August 16, 2012, before 5 in the morning, Nielsen and Trish were 2 of the 5 deputies in the trailer park. Even earlier that morning, Deputy Michael Scott Boyington, who was off-duty and serving a security detail at a refinery, was injured in a drive-by shooting. Boyton was shot by an individual in a truck, which deputies surmised might have escaped to the trailer park. Later on, the truck would be discovered close to the trailers in a wooded area. The FBI refers to Jokel and Terry Smith as domestic terrorists, although in the testimony of the deputies who survived, they were pulled down and detained for being resistant and trying to flee from them. Smith is the so-called leader of the group of sovereign citizens at the trailer park. At that point, according to both the prosecution and the defense, Terry Smith's son Brian got an AK-47 and began shooting at deputies, hitting Nielsen, Jeremy Trish, and Jason Trish. The last 2 are not related. In addition to being charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of Nielsen and Jeremy Trish, Brian Smith was also suspected of firing on Boynton earlier in the morning. Nevertheless, he has not yet been found able to face trial and is still being held in a state mental institution. Stephen Lorenzo, Florida. Following the 2003 killings of Jason Gilhouse and Michael Wascholtz, Stephen Lorenzo received a death sentence. Lorenzo entered a guilty plea for the 2003 killings of Gilhouse and Wascholtz. According to the prosecution, he and fellow defendant Scott Schweikert set out to enslave gay males for sex. In exchange for cooperating with the prosecution in their case against Lorenzo, Schweikert entered a guilty plea. In his testimony, he said that he and Lorenzo drugged, tortured, killed, and disposed of the bodies of Wascholtz and Gilhouse. Wascholtz's body was discovered in his car in the parking area of an apartment building. Gilhouse's remains were never found. Schweikert claims that Gilhouse was cut to pieces and tossed into several trash cans. Albert Perkins, who survived Lorenzo's drugging and assault, was another witness. Perkins claimed that he drifted in and out of consciousness and that Lorenzo had all control when he eventually awoke. More than 5 hours were spent torturing him. When Lorenzo eventually fell asleep, Albert Perkins was able to run away. Samuel Amador, California. I couldn't find much info about this inmate. From what I was able to read, he was first charged with the murder of Alex Marty, a 26-year-old Highland resident, back in 2013. While incarcerated, he murdered another inmate in 2018 by coercing him into his cell, and then in 2022, Amador was being transferred from his cell to an outdoor leisure area when he pulled out an improvised 6-inch knife that was concealed in his clothes and attacked a deputy. The deputy wrestled with Amador after the stabbing and managed to return the prisoner to his cell. After being taken to a neighboring hospital, the deputy made a full recovery. Jason Michael Osborne, Alabama. After reportedly robbing Decatur resident Ricardo Duane Brown, 42 years old, of drugs and cash in October 2018, Osborne was taken into custody in September 2019 on murder and robbery charges. Brown was run over at the intersection of 12th Avenue Northwest and 3rd Street Northwest. After receiving a tip about a potential hit and run on October 28, 2018, police discovered Brown unconscious and with head injuries. Later, at Decatur Morgan Hospital, he passed away from his wounds. The jury can sentence a capital murder defendant to death or life in prison without the possibility of parole during the punishment phase of the trial. 2 jurors chose life in prison, while 10 supported the death penalty. If 10 out of the 12 jurors vote in favor of the death penalty, Alabama law mandates that the capital punishment can be imposed. The jury debated for around an hour before returning the sentence, according to the Morgan County District Attorney's Office. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.